I'm a product specialist for Caterpillar for excavators covering North America. I'm sitting at my home in Danvers, Illinois, about 50 miles east of Peoria, Illinois, and we're going to talk about some Caterpillar technology on our excavators. After I get done talking, we're going to send it over to the Edwards Demonstration Learning Center where the demo operators out there are going to put on a live show demonstrating what I'm talking about. So we're pretty excited about this format that we're doing here on Facebook. It gets us to a lot of different people all over the world. So hopefully you guys find it beneficial and can learn a bit about what we're doing as a company and try to help you guys all be more profitable and be better at what you do using our equipment. So I want to remind you, next week we are going to have skid steers and compact track loaders with product specialist Kevin Coleman out of North Carolina. So he'll be on next week live doing the same thing that we're doing today. So just a quick reminder. So right now let's dive into this technology. So we introduced these next gen Cat excavators about maybe about 2.5 years ago. We started with our 320s, 323s, and these things are loaded with technology. And we could talk all day about the technology that's on the machines, but we're going to narrow it down to one specific one, and it's going to be about our payload system. And a quick reminder of what's out there and what's coming. We've introduced all these machines, but these machines, these tracked excavators that are not GC machines, all have standard technology on them, and it's state of the art. It's what you guys have asked for years, and we're just giving this to you on the machine. And we're talking about certain features such as these. These are what's going to come standard on our next gen excavators. So we've transitioned from our F series to our next gens, and we have thousands of them out there running today. But we're going to take some time to talk about these briefly, and then I want to spend time on the payload system. So the Cat Grade 2D, so it's an indicate-only system. It's great for digging trenches, just simple percent and flat grades. Then we have Cat Grade with Assist, which this is a system that helps automate the machine, you could say, to help operators maintain grade, hopefully one time, keep it on grade. It helps with softer conditions where you can't necessarily feel the machine like you could in a harder material. So there's a ton of scenarios where the Cat Grade helps. It keeps you from over digging and under digging as well. The one we want to spend some time on today is the Cat Payload. And I like talking about this one because when I do training sessions for our sales teams all over North America, I ask one question and I get a mixed bag of answers. And I say, what size excavators load trucks? And they start popping off, all 390s and 349s and 325s and 313. Well, the answer is they all load trucks if you think about what an excavator does. I like to call it a Swiss Army knife, and they're very handy. They're almost on every job site doing all kinds of things. But one thing that they do load is they load trucks. And whether it's articulated trucks or semis or tandems or whatever it is, a lot of times you want to make sure that you're not overloading the truck or underloading the truck. You want to keep track of production, what you've done for the day, and our system does all of that. So we're gonna buzz through this pretty quick, and then you guys will get to see an actual live demonstration of Eric Esposito doing this here in a few minutes. So real quick, what we do, what this machine does, what these technologies do on this, the payload system is the target application right now is for truck loading, and the main thing is we want to do is help prevent overloading and underloading. I remember when I was an operator before I came to Caterpillar, and you'd be loading a truck, and the truck drivers would be standing on the fuel gauge looking at their air gauge to see how much weight is in there, and so that was the closest system they had to knowing whether they were going to be overweight, because those trucks that go on the highway, we all know what can potentially be waiting for them. That's scales and portable scales. And so if you're worried about getting issued tickets because you're overweight, then you put less material on it. And if you think about you're hauling material off of site and you're putting 5 ton less on a truck, and you haul 40 trucks out that day, 5 tons and 40 trucks, that's a lot of material. So if we can keep you close and accurate, and you're going to be able to move more dirt more efficiently and more cost effective too. So the nice thing about it, it's a completely integrated system. We have tip off. So if you're familiar with scales on a wheel loader, we're able to tip off the material, which Eric Esposito is going to show us that in a bit. maybe help you understand what we mean by tip off. But that means if you're almost to your target weight and you have too much in the bucket, you can shake the material off and then continue to load the truck. It's instantaneous. So as soon as the material comes out of the ground in the bucket, you get instantaneous weights. It comes an estimated weight, then it'll become an accurate weight. And we'll talk about that in a minute and what it means to become an accurate weight. The calibration process is easy. It's automated. The machine, you go through some specific functions and the machine will do the calibration for you. And it will keep track of daily payloads up to 30 days. Keep track of your cycle times. It keeps track of a lot of production that you're often curious about at the end of the day. And we'll show you that as well. You can pull that off in several different ways. We'll talk about that, where you're able to break down cycles and how long you were in the cut, so on and so forth, via our Vision Link system. But the main goal really is to make sure that we're not overloading trucks or we're hurting them, or not underloading trucks either. What makes the system work? So what's up here right now, this is what makes all of our CAT grade and our CAT grade with assist system work. And if you can add 3D to that, you're using the same components. But we've got IMUs and AMR sensors, which means the inertial measurement unit, which tells you the angle of the boom and stick and the car body. And then we've got a magnetic rotation sensor that lets us know the bucket angle. And all these things on the machine are telling us the grade. But how does that help with payload? Well, we had a couple different things. We had an engine control module or ECM, as well as some boom pressure sensors. The boom pressure sensors give us how much weight's in the bucket. Honestly, that's what it all comes down to. And our engineers have done an amazing job of making this system work efficiently and accurate too. So when the operator's working, we want to make it so it's not terribly complicated, because if they have to push 5 or 6 buttons, they're not going to use it. And we want it to be clear of what's going on. And so on this is the view that the operator will be looking at. This is the CAT display, the standard 10-inch CAT colored display. And it's got some good information on it. So if you look at the left side, you'll see that it says truck ID. So you can store specific trucks in there, and you can name them and scroll through them. And Eric Esposito is going to do that in a little bit. Right below that, truck pass count. So this is how many trucks we've stored. So any of you folks that have loaded trucks for a living before, you know that there's days of the silver counter where they're clicking every time they load a truck. And those days can be gone, because with the push of a button on the joystick, you can store that information. And so it'll keep track of your daily truckloads. Every time you store that truck, that's what we mean by truck pass count. And then truck payload. So it says 38 ton. That means that's how much material is in that truck at that moment, because the excavator has been throwing the material inside there. Now, if you go right to the middle where it says remaining weight or target weight, that means if we started with 30 ton, it will start at 30 ton. And as you add material to the truck, it will count down until you get to 0. And again, you're going to be able to see this live in a few minutes when Eric is out running that excavator. And then off to the right, material ID. You can store materials in here. You can put densities in here. And so then you're able to pull volumes at the end of the day. So it's pretty neat. The bucket pass count. So if you know that you're putting 8 to 10 buckets on a truck every time, it's going to let you know that that's how many buckets were on that specific truck. And then once you store it, that'll clear it out and you start over again. Bucket payload. So Eric's going to show you this. This is kind of the important one, is what we don't want the operator staring at this screen. We want them to just load trucks like they normally would. So the operator would go into the cut. They would come up out of the ground with material in the bucket. And right now, where you see the green bucket, that would be white, and it would still have a weight there, but it would be an estimated payload. And as the operator starts to boom up and swing, it starts doing its calculations. And in the background, you hear this ding, this little tone that's not annoying at all, but that's just indicating to the operator that now we consider that an accurate weight. And we say accurate is plus or minus 3%. And when everything is done like it's supposed to be, that the measurements are done and calibrations are done, we're seeing sometimes better than 3%. I'm going to show you a little bit of data that we took earlier this year. So that's the waste status. So this is typically what the operator is looking at. I know there's a lot of arrows there and a lot of things that make it maybe look busy, but as you see when Eric starts this in a little bit, that it's really not that difficult. And the one thing that we want you to know is this is easy to use. It's typically, once you get started and set for the day, it's a one-touch system. So you click the button to store the truck and you can just continue to go. And it's pretty neat. One thing I want to mention is we have a remaining, or the target weight there, was just 4.0 in the very center. You don't necessarily have to have a target weight there. So if you leave that blank, it's just going to accumulate how much material you put in there, because quite honestly, at the end of the day, if you've got a semi and a tandem and you have all this mixed bag of payload trucks that have different payload capacities on them, and you don't want to toggle back and forth, that's totally fine. You don't have to put a target weight in there. And again, you can get your totals for the end of the day, which will show you what we mean by that. And then really the goal, again, like we said, is to prevent over and underloading. Now, one of the great things about this is the production that we can track. And we can pull this information off in 2 different ways, and you can look at it in 3 different ways. So one, the operator can toggle through the display and look at their daily totals right here, like you see on the left of the screen. This is in liters, but you can make it tons and gallons, or liters and tons. So, well, however you choose, whatever country you're in, whatever region and whatever you use, it's totally fine. But point of it is at the end of the day, we can pull that data off. And what can happen is the operator or supervisor can put a USB into the side of the display, and you can pull this information off for the day, and it puts it into a .csv file, which basically you can put into an Excel spreadsheet, and it will give you a lot of information. And tons per hour, tons per gallon, efficiencies, your total payload for the day in tons. If you put a density in there, you get volumes, total trucks loaded, all these great features and benefits that you can use at the end of the day. Because quite honestly, if you want to know, and it's not a tattletale system, but it's a production system, if you want to know what the operator's doing at that time, and you want to know what that machine is capable of doing, quite frankly, if you know that you've got one of your best operators in there in a unique situation, or a situation where it's repeatable, you can keep track for some production, and to help you bid and look at the next job differently, because you honestly know with a pretty accurate count as to what that machine's capable of, what that operator is capable of. So I really think it could help in actual doing job bids for this system. It's very easy to use. It's very operator friendly, and you'll see that here in a little bit. So one thing that we like to do is we tell you all this information, but are we telling you the truth, or are we lying? So like we said, if everything is done properly and we're using the system like it's meant to be, we did a quick little study, and we're really happy with the results. And what we did was we loaded 2 articulated trucks continuously and put about 50 ton on each truck. So we went in there and we just did a number of trucks. We ran them across some certified scales to see how accurate we were. And if you look down at the bottom of the screen, the percentages that we were within is 0.4%, 1.6%, 0.2%, down to 0%. The worst we were off within 50 ton range was 2%. And I find that to be extremely accurate for what we're doing. These are not certified registered scales on this machine. They're not legal for trade, but you can keep track of production. You can keep track of it accurately. And again, you're going to stop from underloading those on-highway trucks and potentially overloading the articulated trucks, or the trucks that stay on the job site. And honestly, it's a really good system. We're confident in it. We would like anybody that gets in a next-gen excavator to give this a try, because honestly, once you see the data that is provided at the end of the day, it's pretty valuable, and it starts the clock ticking for the customers. Once they see that, it's one of my favorite things that we get to do is in my job as a product application specialist, is we go out and spend time with customers and dealers, and you get that customer in there and they start using this and they see it, and then they start thinking, it's that aha moment of, man, I could have loaded all these trucks on a specific job site much heavier, or right on their target payload, because we were worried about scales. So we're underloading these trucks. And you think about that and you start putting the calculator down in time and material and expenses, that really starts to add up pretty quick. So this is our simple payload system, and we're pretty excited about it. So if there's any questions, feel free to send me some questions. We're going to do a couple different things now. So let's shoot over to the Edwards crew, and I'll talk about what we're going to do there. So what we've got is Eric Esposito in our next gen 336, and he's going to show us live how this system works. He's got an articulated truck and he's got a tandem, and Eric is going to do this live. He's going to load the trucks, and you'll get to see how simple this system is. So, Eric, I'll pass it over to you, and then we'll wrap up when you load a couple of trucks.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. So we're out here at the Edwards Demonstration and Learning Center. We're still working. We're staying safe. We're still here to help our customers and dealers and answer questions. We're we got the masks on and keeping our distance when we need to, but definitely here to help, and hopefully we can answer some questions on payload today. So probably one of the simplest and easiest to use technologies in these excavators. So just being able to click a button, depending on how you have your machine set up, and then basically load trucks, and the machine tracks every bucket every time I swing, and when I dump, it adds it to the total of what's in that truck. So there's very, very little operator input, and you were talking about storing the information. I click one button, it stores it, it changes my target back to whatever we have set up, whether we've got that 0 target set up like you're talking about, or like in this case, we've got our 735 set up for basically 30 ton to try to save a little time here as we're loading it. But very little operator input. I click a button and puts the system in standby. So if I have to do some cleanup work, well, we don't want to have the machine thinking that it's putting that material in the truck. So I click a button and the machine pauses itself. Hopefully you can hear those tones kind of working. So I'm not staring at that screen at all. As I dump those, it's basically telling me, hey, you just got a good, we call it a green bucket weight. I get another tone telling me, hey, you're within your target. So I got one more 1 ton to go. So since we're on this articulated truck, I can be a little bit looser with my target, and we'll throw that in there, and we're going to take a look at what's on the screen there. But big one there. Hey, I'm all done. We're within just a little over on that one. I'm going to hit store. Simple as that, and we're on to our next truck. So I'm just going to take a quick look at the screen here. Double check, make sure you've got your correct bucket that you're using to load the trucks. So in this case, we've got our 62-inch bucket on there. Down on the bottom, we're getting ready to start truck number 65 for the day. Just loaded the 735 with that 30-ton payload. Now we're going to have to change over to our different truck here. So right there on the menu, I can click that, change over to my tandem, and it's already going to have that target set up in there for me. So we got that set at 15 ton. Now I can go through and I can use the joysticks to do that if I want to set them up that way. Just click a roller switch and it'll automatically pull up that truck list and change it that way. So a couple different options. I can use the roller switch too to change my target, or I can just put that at 0 and leave it and let it count up all day long. We can track the materials like you were talking about. If we want to track dirt or sand or rock, anything like that we can set up in there and track that too. Like I said, over on the left, truck number 65 with nothing in it, no buckets, and right there you'll see the white bucket right now. And then as I grab my next bucket, you'll then see as I swing towards that truck, that bucket will change color. So it'll give me a weight as soon as I get a bucket there. And then as I start to swing, that thing will give me a tone. It'll turn green, telling me, hey, you've just got an accurate weight. And then as I dump that in the truck, it will then let me get my next one and keep on counting for me. So almost no input throughout the day except for storing trucks. And basically that's an easy way to track trucks, rather than me having to sit in here with a counter or relying on the truck drivers to keep their track of how much we put in there. You're hearing those tones changing, hopefully. So as I keep loading.
Eric, you can
very, very simple.
Can you point out in the middle there where it's counting down from, you have 5.3 tons left to go, and as you transfer it to the truck, it'll subtract it from the truck.
Correct. Yep. So if you were talking about tip off a little bit there, so there's a couple of different ways to do it. The system is fast enough and accurate enough that I can tip it off in the truck. Right now we need that 1.4 ton. So I'm going to grab a bucket here, and you'll see right away that it gives me red if I look at the screen, or I can hear it beeping. And then basically we've got almost 4 tons in the bucket there. I'm going to get rid of quite a bit of that. And since this truck is going to be going on the road, we can get pretty accurate. So depending on how much time we want to spend here, kind of depends on how accurate our system is. So we'll get it pretty close, and you'll see it's beeping at me, telling me that I'm good. I'll swing over and it'll verify it, and then we'll dump that in the truck. So right there, 14.8 tons pretty accurate. That would be all guesswork if I didn't have the system on there. So super easy to use, super helpful as far as, number one, counting buckets, counting trucks for me if I need it to, and knowing exactly what we put in it as they're going to go down the road. And then all I have to do is hit store, push of a button on the joystick, and we're on to our next truck.
Eric, so that looks pretty darn simple, easy to use, operator friendly. As we know, that's the key to this technology. You want to make sure that they're not having to hit 15 buttons to make something work. And the goal is to just load trucks, and keep track of some data. So let's pretend that it's the end of the day, shifts over, and you want to find out how much work you did at the end of the day. Can you step us through the process of looking at my total volumes for the day of what we did and how much productivity we got?
Yeah, sure. So down here across the bottom, we've got our shortcut keys. The far one here with the yellow box around it, that's our payload. So I'm just going to click that. It's going to pop up the menu, and we will scroll till we find the settings. So first one there, payload settings. And then we check out the menu here where it says work monitor, work all. We'll go into the top one there. And then in there, it will populate basically what the machine has tracked when I hit the store button to store those trucks.
So one of the great things on there is we talked about, one of the questions that we have up here is how can I plan for my truck loading better? You can take this data and you can see what the truck's capable of doing, and what the operator's capable of doing. So if you're getting a certain amount of tons a day, that's going to help you prepare for, okay, then if I'm hauling this much material out in a day and I'm using 40-ton trucks, maybe I need 5 trucks instead of 4. You'll be able to keep track of your productivity to help plan for that next job better. So like in this information that we're showing right here, we're burning 1.73 gallons per hour in 65 trucks. Average productivity in tons per hour, 210. Now we've been out in the demonstration, so we're just passing this around, but we're average efficiency, total payload. So we've loaded 2,168.2 tons. That's kept track of that. The machine is plus or minus 3%, and that information I showed you previously is probably better than that. But we want to give ourselves a little leeway for carry back in the bucket and whatnot. And then total volume. So we have a density in there, 700.6 cubic feet of material. Eric, if you arrow down, there's still more information that you can pull off. Truck count. So we knew that one, but it gives you the total buckets and total fuel usage, total operating hours and idle time. This is a lot of data that customers honestly probably are looking and wondering, but we're keeping track of it all right here. And then, like I said, 1, I can look at it this way and I can report it back and write it off, text it to my boss. 2, I can put a USB stick in the side of the display and extract that information. And 3, this is all getting sent back in our product link system back to our offboard computer system called VisionLink. And we can look back pull that off at the end of the day into the office and see, okay, Eric Esposito on 336, number 1, had, 2,100 tons moved today. And if you've got 3 or 4 of these machines running, you can keep track of that data. It's really, really good information. One of the questions here, someone thinks that it's a little difficult, especially if you're busy loading. I often get the wrong count at the end. So Eric showed you the tip off. It's all as much time as you want to spend shaking the material off. So if you want to spend the time to actually get it, you can take as much time as you want to get it as perfect, especially on those on-highway trucks. If they're just production trucks and you're loading material on articulated trucks, you're not worried about the tip off, you can just put the material in the truck and go. But if you take your time, shake the material off, spend some time. So the thing is that it's not accurate. We're not considering accurate weight, and it will change a little bit once you start the momentum and swinging like Eric showed. So there'll be a little bit of leeway there, but we're pretty confident as Eric got it within 0.2 ton of his target weight.
Yep, Ryan, on that whole subject, one of the big things is when you're hitting the store button, if they feel their numbers aren't coming out exactly right, when you hit that store button, if I get a bucket here and swing, I'll have that weight in there. If I get rid of that bucket, tip off to say whatever we're looking for, when I put that in the truck, if I don't get rid of all that dirt and I bring something back, and I hit store over here, it's going to automatically think that I just dumped that bucket in the truck.
Correct.
So it's all about timing on when you hit that store button.
Yep. And Eric, why don't you show them real quick, if you don't mind, put it in standby mode. So
okay.
While he puts it in standby mode, what we mean by that is, so Eric just loaded those trucks and he honked them off and they're gone. Well, if Eric's moving material, if he's on a bench and gathering material and swinging, that's information we're not wanting to track. So with the push of the joystick, Eric can put it in standby mode, which basically is pause, and it's not collecting data anymore. So now he can move those rocks out of the way and move some pipe or whatever is needed to do. And then when the trucks show back up and he's ready to go again, he clicks the button and he's ready to go again. It's very easy. It just puts it in pause. So Eric, if you push the button again, show you how so now he's back up and running. And it's a really nice way to be able to do that. Now, one other thing you can do, say you forget to put it in pause and you're throwing material around, you can go back and delete the last bucket, or you can add the last bucket. There's a lot of things you can do. It's very, very similar to what we've had in the wheel loader system for years. And we're trying to make it as consistent as we can. So if you are an operator that jumps back and forth, you're able to hopefully get in there and work similar and understand how the system works. If we have any questions. So Eric, at the end of the day, you've extracted your information and now you want to go ahead and reset and say you're going to turn the machine off and let her cool down and head home and see your family. How do I clear that information so I'm ready to go for the next day?
Okay, so we'll just go back into the menu. We'll go into same payload settings. And then we'll go into that work monitor all again. And this time we're going to go down to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. We'll hit that, and there's reset. We just hit OK right there. And then just resets everything. We're ready to start the next day with start at zeros and count up from there.
It's a pretty slick system. We hope that your dealer personnel and if you guys are interested in it, please go get a hold of your salesman, contact your dealership, and hopefully you can get a demo. You can come out and see this. We have this information on YouTube. This is going to be recorded, I believe, put on YouTube, and we're excited about it. It works great. And if, again, like I said, if you think about what excavators do from a 313 to a 390, they load trucks very often, and why not keep track of that data if we can? I think we have one more question. So these systems are not legal for trade. Our machines are not legal for trade. They're just basically meant for production and tracking material, again, to help prevent overloading and underloading of whatever you're loading, whatever truck you're loading. So no, they are not legal for trade, and that's a decision that we've made to go, but it's just meant to keep some production. We're not taking tickets per se like a legal for trade system would. So thanks for the questions. Hopefully you all learned something. Hopefully this was a good day. This is something new for us. I'm sitting at home being safe. The kids are all safe, so hopefully you're doing the same thing. We're ready to get back to work, and everyone have a good day, and thanks for tuning in.